Hello, everybody. My name is Wendy Jap-A-Joe. I'm the Director of the Telecommunication Authority Suriname, and it's for me a great pleasure to have this presentation during the 5G Latin American Conference. It's an honor for me to be able to share some information about Suriname and our 5G development and the connectivity in Suriname in underserved areas. That is what my presentation will be about today. I will do a brief introduction about the TAS as an organization. I will provide you some information about 5G in Suriname and also the underserved areas and 5G as a solution to serve undeserved areas. The TAS, the Telecommunication Authority Suriname, is established by law as an autonomous and independent body. The most important tasks are promoting the introduction of new technologies and services, granting licenses, and supervising compliance with the licenses conditions by the licensee, management of frequency spectrum and numbering plan. In Suriname, 5G was introduced in 2019 by one of the major telecom providers. And at that time, we were the first in the Caribbean region to launch 5G. The other provider we have in Suriname, because we have two big providers in Suriname, is now in the process of installing their own subsea cable, after which they will also be implementing their own 5G network. They're striving to do that in 2024. The 5G spectrum is still largely available in Suriname, and given the properties of the low frequencies the operators choose to operate in the 3500 megahertz frequency band. Right now, the percentage of population covered by at least 5 mobile 5G network in 2022 is about 15.44%. And active subscription on the 5G mobile broadband in 2022 was about 350,000 people. And when we look at the coverage right now for 5G in Suriname, only our capital, Paramaribo, has a 5G coverage, but also it's not fully covered yet. And the following speeds are offered by this network. So in peak times, users usually have a coverage link, a coverage speed of about 597 megabits per second and an uplink of 70 megabits per second. And on average, it's about 307 megabits uplink and 5.73 megabits uplink. That is what currently the coverage that is being provided by this 5G network. But referring to the SDG number 9, which talks about industry motivation, innovation, and infrastructure in countries, we need to put in place that all people have access to broadband, including cloud and IE services. The ITU Broadband Commission has 7 targets that should be achieved by 2025. The targets are policy, affordability, connectivity, skills, digital finance, SMES connectivity, and gender equality. When looking at that and 5G, one of the biggest challenges Suriname has is the large indigenous and maroon communities that live in the hinterlands of Suriname. And these areas do not have good quality internet access to those locations because they are only accessible through waterway or air. So getting the connectivities to these communities is very difficult. In order to bring connectivities to these villages, it's necessary to have a universal access fund. This because it is not feasible for operators to invest in these areas. The cost of getting there into these areas are high, and the providers cannot recoup their investments because there are few people living in the villages, and the distance between the villages are far. So that makes it very difficult for our local providers to provide good quality connectivity, especially internet connectivities, to those villages that are deep into the interior. They are widely spread across the interior, and a lot of them are only accessible by waterway or by airplane. But having 5G in these areas will bring, of course, a lot of innovation to these areas. And the advantages of 5G to these villages will be that through 5G, they will have, of course, faster speeds, low latency, increased capacity, power innovation, and more bandwidth. But given the landscape, the wireless connectivity feasibility and much cheaper than wired connectivity. But on the other hand, having wireless connectivities in those areas also have their challenges because of weather conditions. Sometimes they can disturb the wireless connectivity, but also having wireless connectivity versus wired connectivity means that you will also need energy to keep those base stations up and running, which also is quite a challenge when it comes to the inlands, where there also is no fixed energy supply. The social and economic benefits that 5G will have for these areas will be implementation of distance learning, because also getting qualified teachers to these areas can be quite difficult. So most of the times, young people in these areas lack quality education, and distance learning could help to close that gap. It will also encourage micro and small entrepreneurship, stimulating tourism, and more girls and women will have access to internet and ICT products, and thereby reducing the gender inequality. And also preventing urbanization, because right now, a lot of the young people leave their villages and move to Paramaribo because of the fact that there are more opportunities in Paramaribo and less in their local villages. In our process and moving forward, we stress every day that Universal Access Fund needs to be implemented as soon as possible in order to get the finances to build these networks to these underdeveloped areas. Suriname can request funds from donor organizations and other in order to bring connectivity to the underserved areas. And we are actively looking for ways we are able to do that. We also have a new concept law for electronic communications that needs to be approved by the Parliament in order for us as an authority to further develop and stimulate the development of internet and internet access. Because our current law, which dates back from 2008, is very limited when it comes to the possibilities that internet can provide. We are also looking at promoting educational programs in order to maximize the digital literacy. We have also noticed that even in Paramaribo, where there is a good access to internet, that the digital literacy rate is still very high, especially under the older population. And this number increases when it comes to the underserved areas in the interior of Suriname, where almost hardly all older people do not know how to use internet. to get information or do certain stuff. So the strategic focus areas for TAS, which are also mentioned in our strategic business plan for the year 2001-2026. We have 3 focus areas for innovation that we strive to reach through different target groups. And these are preliminarily youth and future generations, public sector and government, and the general public. And we will strive to create awareness for these 3 groups so that they can understand and see what the benefits are for the use of internet, but also help them to use that in a positive way to further develop Suriname as a young economy, and also to help them be able to grow as an individual, but also as a total community. I would like to thank you for your attention today, and that I was able to share this short presentation on Suriname and our 5G development with you guys, and I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.